Back in 2013, on the dark web, this criminal marketplace called Evolution Market, we started to see individuals coming in and they were posting that they were making $10,000 a month doing Amazon refunds. And the collective group on the marketplace, the response was, "You, sir, are full of shit." Well, it turns out they were not full of shit. They were making $10,000 plus per month doing Amazon refunds. And the way it worked back then, you would sign up for a Prime free trial. You would use your card, your name, your address. You would order something like a MacBook Pro. Amazon would ship it to you. It would arrive 2 days later. They'd leave it on your doorstep. You'd get on the phone. You'd call Amazon. "Hey, I didn't get it." Amazon would send you another one. It would arrive 2 days later. You'd get on the phone. Get Amazon on. "Hey, I didn't get that one either." And Amazon would then give you a refund. So you would end up with 2 laptops and your money back. It wasn't just laptops. It was cell phones. It was 70-inch televisions. It was living room couches. It was everything across the board. That is where refunding fraud began. Now, that type of fraud actually redefines cybercrime as we know it today, because what used to happen for aspiring cyber criminals, some newbie that just read some article someplace and he wanted to make a lot of money, he would come on the dark web. He would get stolen credit card details and he would try to defraud, Apple or Sony or Microsoft for laptops, and he would fail miserably because that requires a degree of skill. That's not the way it works anymore. Today, what happens is these fraudsters come and start immediately with refunding fraud, and they immediately start to profit. And as they profit, as they're actually making money, they learn how to commit other types of fraud as well. Now, I wanted to preface that and explain this before 4K1, the Reddit user, comes in and tells us his story. So I'm an avid Reddit reader. I read it all the time. I'm subscribed to many different subreddits. Some of them even talk about me and hate me. Some of them like me even. That being said, I'm a watch guy too. I have over 20 watches myself. I love the things. I think they're great works of art, great timepieces. I'm more of a tool type watch guy myself, so divers watches, things like that. I was perusing the watches subreddit, and the user 4K1 posted his story about how this individual tried to defraud him. So at this point, I'm going to bring user 4K1 from Reddit over, and he's going to share his story with us. 4K1, how are you today? I'm doing all right. Hey, first of all, I want to thank you, and truly I mean this. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the show. I really do appreciate it. And I read your story, and it was really bothering to me, not only what you went through, but also what the website Chrono24 attempted to do. And I use Chrono24. So if you could just walk through what happened, I would really appreciate that.
Firstly, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me. I think this is an important story to be told because Chrono24, everyone seems to think it's a bulletproof, safe platform. I did too. I've transacted on it multiple times.
Right.
But to get to the story, essentially what happened is I listed a watch, a pretty high dollar value watch on Chrono24 in February. And I made it very clear that for those that are into watches, this was a bracelet watch, so the links are short on it.
Sure.
It wasn't fully linked. And I made that very clear. The watch sat on the marketplace for a couple months until it eventually sold in June. And before purchasing the watch, the buyer asked a bunch of questions. Does the bracelet fit? How do I get more links? This and that. Answered everything to his, to his satisfaction. And then he deposited the money in escrow. Chrono24 works via a secure escrow platform. So he did a full deposit of the entire value of the watch into escrow, which triggers an email for me as the seller to ship out the watch.
Sure.
So I packaged it up, I overnighted it. He gets it, and the way the escrow works is the buyer has 7 days to make a contest to the escrow. So if I were to ship him a rock, for example, or a non-running watch, he would have time to go against it. Usually, people in my previous experiences selling there, they release it immediately. But
right.
I noticed I shipped the watch to him. It arrived. A day went by, no release. Another day went by, no release. Third day went by, nothing. And then Monday, first thing, I get an email first thing in the morning saying the user has disputed your sale. And now here's me wondering, what could possibly be wrong with the watch? You know, I took lots of good photos. I was very meticulous in my description. So and I read his refund request.
And what was the request? What did he say?
That's what really got to me. It was very generic. You know, it said something along the lines of, hello, the item is not as pictured, and please let me know how to return it. And now I'm starting to think, if you're gonna buy a $20,000 watch off of a website, you don't say, oh, the item, right? Like, you would have something more specific to say. So at the beginning, that was my first red flag. The website had urged me, why don't you deal with him and you come to a resolution, which again, I also didn't like. Like, it's your marketplace. Why is it between me and someone you connected me to? So I reached out to him and I said, hey, what's wrong, basically? Because another thing important to mention is, as a private seller, I'm not obligated to take returns on Chrono24. Dealers are, but private sellers, no. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, what's wrong with the watch? And he repeats the same thing. Item doesn't look as pictured, and it doesn't have enough links on the bracelet. Now imagine my surprise hearing that when I had a full conversation with him about that a few days prior. So I sent all the screenshots over to Chrono24, and they did actually rule in my favor. They called me back and they said, hey, you're good. The guy is not within his rights. He said, it's kind of clear he's either just had, buyer's remorse or he's acting in bad faith, but we're not going to let him return the watch to you. We're going to reopen the escrow, and now it's the same deal again. He has 2 weeks to accept it. And if he doesn't in 2 weeks, I'll get an automatic deposit. So I asked them very clearly, I remember, so I'm good, right? I'm going to get paid out. They said, yeah, it might take up to 2 weeks, but you're going to get paid out. And that's where everything went crazy from there onwards. So I waited a few days, nothing. No email, no correspondence. And then I suddenly get an email back from Chrono24 saying, and I got excited. I see, email from Chrono24. Nice, I'm getting paid.
Right.
And I log in and it's, the user has filed a credit card chargeback.
Which, how can you do that with an escrow?
Right. Does that not defeat the purpose of an escrow? Right. I mean, if you were buying a house where you use escrow, you'd think the realtor would let you put the money for that on a credit card? No, that's the whole purpose of escrow. So I wrote back to them and I was livid. I was like, what do you mean? Like, isn't the whole purpose of this to be secure? And they're like, yeah, but, he did it via credit card and created a chargeback. And at this point, they were basically just like, yeah, we have to freeze the escrow account. And I said, how long? And they said indefinite until we hear back from the purchaser's credit card company. The escrow account will remain frozen basically until an action is ruled upon by the credit card provider. So I asked, I said, how long does this take on average? And she said, usually we wrap these up in 30 to 45 days, which again, it's really frustrating. It's a lot of money. I'm not a dealer. I'm just a guy who likes watches. I buy and sell. So for me, this was a huge amount of money. For most people, I would think $20,000 is a lot of money. So I told them, I said, look, I appreciate it, but I have bills to pay. Like, I sold the watch for a reason, I don't. So they were like, yeah, sorry, we can't help. It's going to take 30 to 45 days. All we can do is send our chat logs and our evidence to them, and it's just up to them to deal with it. Which led to just weeks upon weeks upon weeks of me reaching out. Hey, what's the update? Sorry, we haven't heard anything. Hey,
so it went past the 30 to 45 days.
Yeah, just about after we hit, I don't remember the date exactly, but just about like the 30 to 45 day mark, somewhere in that range. It had now come to about August of 2023. And I reached out to them. I should backtrack a little and mention, they told me, they said, even if they lose the Amex dispute, they will pay me out. They told me that at the beginning. Chrono24 said, hey, not to worry. I know it's a long wait. It might take some time, but one way or another, you're going to get paid.
Right.
So now we circle back to 30 to 45 days post dispute. And I just sent them an email because I was frustrated at this point. I said, look, you had agreed to pay me out one way or another. This ultimately is between you and the credit card processor. So pay me out and you deal with the situation. They said, yeah, we'll get back to you.
Because $20,000 to them is a lot of money too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I told them, like, and I made that clear. I said, look, even if this was a $200-300 purchase, it would be bad. But $20,000, like, that's life-changing money for some people. For me, I needed the money.
Right.
So I told them, I said, this is a big part of, like, my finances. I need this sorted. And eventually, so they said, yeah, we'll get back to you. I get a call a little later. I think it was a few days after that, and at this point, I have their number saved on my phone. So I see ringing Chrono 24 support, and I answer it, and I'm excited. I'm like, oh, maybe, like, we've reached a resolution. It's been, it's now mid-August. This thing happened late June.
Right.
So they answer, and I immediately hear it in her voice. My mediator, she said, look, I pushed this up the chain to my supervisor. We're no longer able to have your back in case in case we lose the dispute.
Oh, wow.
And my jaw hit the floor. I said, what do you mean? I mean, you had told me, and this was my mistake. I should have written it down. But I should have asked for a written confirmation. But
Right.
I will say, to their credit, she did admit it. She said, I did say that. I know I said that. But after pushing it up to my boss, legally, this constitutes friendly fraud, not wire fraud. And in my mind, I was like, that doesn't sound very friendly to me. I mean,
Right.
the guy has my watch. And if you've ever done a chargeback on Amex before, I've done it. Like, Amex pays you up front, and
Right.
then they decide to take it back or not. I got scammed once on a taxi ride, and I did it, and I got the full statement back. So at this point, the guy has $20,000. The guy has my watch, and I
Right.
have neither. So I told them that this doesn't sound like something friendly to me.
No,
she was
and,
like,
and just for the viewers, I want you to continue on, but just for the viewers,
Sure.
friendly fraud. It's also called third-party fraud. That's the better name for it. But friendly fraud is basically, traditionally, it's been when you've got an existing legitimate customer that comes to your website. So Walmart, Sam's Club, Amazon, what have you. It's somebody who's actually a legitimate customer that comes there, and for some reason, they decide that they're going to try to benefit at the harm of the company. So they'll get that item in, they'll say, hey, it was messed up, it was torn up, it wasn't in the box, what have you. And that's that instance of friendly fraud at that point, all right? So what Chrono 24 was saying is they're saying, hey, this is not some sort of scheme. It's nothing that's organized. It's some user that's just trying to profit. And because of that, we are not going to get your back. You are going to potentially lose that $20,000. So I just wanted to explain that for the users that are out there, or the viewers rather.